Eliza Becker, and this is my introduction video. First, a little bit about myself. I recently graduated from Messiah College in May 2016, so I'm a very new teacher. Last year, I worked 2 long-term sub positions. The first one was a 5th grade position at Eshelman Elementary School in Penn Manor, and the second one was a gifted support teacher at Landisville Middle School in the Hempfield School District. And I got married this past summer. Here's a picture of me at graduation. And this is me and my husband Christian and our Uncle Marv in the back, who was the one that married us. Here a little bit about my interest. First, traveling. I absolutely love traveling. I have Germany there because I considered majoring in German because I loved it so much and I love the country. I hope to go back there someday. I have Cyprus here. I traveled there during college. I did some archaeological work on a dig site called Kila Kutsopetria, and we worked near the town of Larnaca, which is down here. It's just a beautiful, beautiful landscape. I have that we like to travel to different cities. This is just a picture of Christian and myself at Ellis Island in New York City. This is one of the national parks we went to, Yellowstone. This was my absolute favorite view from Yellowstone. I believe they called it the Niagara Falls of Yellowstone. And another national park we've went to recently is Acadia National Park. Not the best time to go. We went in November and it was freezing, but still beautiful. Chincoteague Island, Virginia. I have that up here because it is my favorite place. It's my happy place. If you've heard of Chincoteague Island before, it's most likely because they're famous for their wild ponies. They swim from Assateague Island across the bay to Chincoteague Island, where the foals get sold to benefit volunteer fire department. I enjoy fishing, boating, biking, crabbing, clamming, any outdoor activity. Other hobbies include volleyball. I play Tuesday nights at the Nook with some college friends. I enjoy making baskets, and it's a new hobby I've picked up that's stress relieving for me. And I have eating ice cream because my favorite food is ice cream. And if you're wondering, Double Dunker by Turkey Hill is the best flavor. And finally, currently I am a 6th grade teacher at Central Manor Elementary School in the Penn Manor School District. I'm on the wellness committee. It's the first full year of teaching in one placement. That's exciting. Yes, I am very busy. I hope a lot of you can empathize with me in my first year of teaching. I am very busy. This is my first grad class. It's my first online class, and I have no online teaching experience. So I'm starting at level 0 and looking forward to go up. Okay, let's delve into the meat of things here. Here are my responses to the readings, research, and the videos. I'd like to start with online versus the brick and mortar video, Inside the Life of a Cyber Teacher. The woman talking at the beginning stated that good teaching starts with making a connection, and I absolutely love that and believe in that as well. One of my greatest strengths, I believe, as an educator is developing rapport with students. And to be honest, initially, since I'm not too familiar with online education, I was wondering how online educators can really develop and nurture a positive rapport with students. It was interesting to hear her perspective on that in this video, but at the end, she stated that it wasn't the same kind of connection, which confused me a little bit, to be honest, because it seemed like she went back on what she was saying before. So if anyone has any input on what the differences are, I guess, I'd love to hear it. Some of the benefits of online education that I seem to agree with from this video were that small groups, organization, discipline, and playbacks are all key aspects and key benefits of online education. I particularly enjoyed the small groups and discipline aspect of that. I can't imagine how much nicer it would be to group my students with a click of a button rather than students bumping around into each other, fighting for seats in my classroom. It seems like a lot more organized and less chaotic. The one thing that I believed was an overgeneralization, and I guess I was a little bit skeptical of, was that they said that discipline problems are non-existent. I just have a very hard time believing that. Being in any educational setting, and I believe any age, there are bound to be some sort of discipline issues. I'm interested to learn more about that as well. In Archambault, Some challenges that I was interested and would like to learn more about were the student issues, as I just talked about before. I was wondering what kind of issues, student issues particularly, teachers run into in online education. One that Archibald focused on was the work completion. That she said some students are either really inclined to do very well in online education, while others are just lacking motivation. I have this intrinsic motivation point here that some students just really take off and run with it, while others lack that same motivation. And I was wondering if there's any accountability aside from grades. Because I know, like, when I'm face to face with my students, I can work with them one on one to get the work done that they're missing, or I can have them come in for recess to finish it. And I was just wondering how that would look in an online setting. Same thing again down here, getting to know students. To what extent can you do that was my question. I know in some of these articles and in Archibald, they were saying how you can communicate with students through different forms like emailing, chatting, video conferencing, and I still have the same question of how does that compare to face-to-face conversation? Time was another challenge that I was really interested in. As I said before, I am a new teacher, and I hope you're all thinking back to your new teaching days and staying late at night and spending time over the weekend at schools. That's where I am right now. Um, I want to know how that's different to, like, compared to online education. I know Archibald says that people underestimate how much time online educators have to spend on this profession. And I wanted to know how it differs. Archibald talked a little bit about communication, how more communication is necessary. And comparing it to my sixth grade experience now, I have a lot of communication with parents, whether it's updating my blog, emailing, phone calling, although it's still probably less than online education. A key point that I do probably agree with is this preparation aspect. Online educators have to have everything on hand, ready to go while they're teaching, whereas I could kind of improvise and switch topics easily or have my classroom aide get something for me if I don't have it on hand. Um, Something I thought was very interesting and appropriate was this expectations for communication and timely feedback that the online educators set right off the bat at the beginning of the class so that parents and students are aware of when they can expect grades, when they can expect communication, and in what time frame. These are my hopes for online teaching and some things that really stuck out to me. Archibald continually talked about this professional development aspect of online education and how it's so necessary for online educators. Um, you need to be continually aware of the changing technologies that are available for students. And I believe they also talked about professional development in the sense of how to manage time. And so my hope is that these online educators have the opportunity to develop professionally in those ways. And my second one is that curriculum is able to be revised and modified as the educator sees fit. I know Archibald said it was on a case-to-case basis, depending on who you're working for, whether or not you have to go through a third party to make changes or revisions to a lesson or curriculum. And I can see how that would be very frustrating as a professional educator when you can't change it yourself as you see fit. So I hope that is something that all online educators are eventually able to do without confirming with someone else. Online teaching approaches from Rice. These are two that really stuck with me. The first one was the group process facilitator, and I think this one stuck with me the most because of how unfamiliar I was with online education. It really listed the different ways to effectively run your online classroom. And I saw so many things match up with how our online grad classes structured, but it was really cool to be able to make those connections and recognize why we're doing some of the things we're doing. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, making that important connection right off the bat with students, making that personal connection with them. In my opinion, that really establishes good classroom management when you have a good rapport with the student. I have structure here listed for two main reasons. First one, They talked about the difference between an educator and an instructor, and I don't know if I just can't get it straight in my mind, but I'm not really understanding the main difference between an educator and an instructor. I think I tend to use them interchangeably. So if you have any input on that to help me understand it a little better, I would appreciate it. Second is this parent involvement pros and cons. I know in one of the articles they mentioned that it really depends on the age of the student, whether it's a young student, the parent would be more involved, whereas in high school, the parent would be less involved. Just from my experiences this year as a classroom brick and mortar teacher, um, sometimes I think parents are too involved or think they know better educationally for their student. And I understand that the parent does know their student the best, but I think in some cases, you need to let the teacher be the teacher. I didn't know if online educators run into that issue where they're often having conflict with the parent about how their child is to be taught. Here are the iNICL standards that I think best aligned with some of the commercials. The first one was Standard I, which talked about using data to guide learning. A lot of them talked about differentiating instruction, which I think also aligns with Standard F, meeting the needs of diverse students and accommodating for them. They all talked about how each student had individualized learning plans and really catering the education to the child, which I think is so unique and so important. And it's great that you're able to do that in online education. And finally, standard A, which is uh, knowing how to effectively online teach, which I think I keep thinking back to Rice and those effective online teaching strategies that she listed. Definitely was prominent in those videos. Finally, what didn't align, and I forget which video particularly I took this from, but they posted about having clubs, activities, and growing socially, and that's not specifically listed in the iNACOL standards, although they are extremely important. And that is everything. I'm looking forward to getting to know everyone and learning more about online education. Thanks.